Today's podcast is brought to you by Kentucky Farm Bureau Insurance. Accidents happen. Without the right coverage from the right insurance company, damage to your automobile can be a real financial hit. That's why Kentuckians appreciate the competitive rates and personal service they get from Kentucky Farm Bureau Insurance. When the unexpected happens, count on us to help you get back on the road. To request a free quote, find your local KFB insurance agent at mykfbagent.com. Kentucky Farm Bureau, big on commitment. Hey, Matt, how's it going?
It's going well. We've had a busy day here for the podcast and had some great guests, and I think we got another one here that I think the viewers are really gonna like. So
yeah, Michael and I go way back. Our families, we both grew up, and you'll hear that at Pork Producers. So our dads have worked for years together, and it's so neat to see where their family operation's gone and seeing another generation of this farm really doing this thing.
Yeah, he's a farmer that chose to come back, and I think a great story to tell, and we get into that in the conversation. So yeah, I think our listenership's really going to love this, and I look forward to sharing this with everybody.
Yeah, and you know how we are, Matt. Everything's going to find a way to connect to food. And so you guys, here's your teaser. We are going to give you a state fair food, a farm machinery show food, and then just average things you need to cook at your house.
Yes, I learned about something new that was at the state fair. I missed it, but I will not next year.
It's on the list.
It's on the list now while I'm there for all the different Farm Bureau festivities that we do. So I look forward to finding that for sure next year. So.
Well, let's get you guys to Michael. Without further ado, I'm Renee Carrico.
And I'm Matt Hilton.
And this is Between the Rows. It's interesting. Michael and I both grew up in Pork Producers. You longer than me. My dad moved here and worked at the hog industry. I guess they moved to Princeton in '91. So, and I was born in '94. So I got a few pretty fun years at the Pork Producers Convention. But back then, it felt like there was a herd of us there, and there were tons of kids getting educated on all this. And things have changed a lot since Dad moved here in '91, and Michael lived through a lot of that. So I would echo that. Education is huge. So. Anyway, first off, I want to thank you for being here. Michael Cochran is here.
Yeah. Tell us a little about you. Who do you organization with, and talk a little bit about yourself.
All right. So I'm with Kentucky Pork Producers. I'll be serving as treasurer next year. Part of that, I'm on the scholarship committee, which I'm really excited about getting youth in. I work on I own and operate a 1,800-acre farm in Rineyville, Kentucky. We've been in pork production my whole life. We've been in cattle production as well. Right now, we're a contract grower. We'll usually keep around 5,000 pigs on the farm, and we'll have about 200 head of cattle. Normally, somewhere around 160 will go to market, and then we do about 300 to 350 acres of hay every year, and then we lease out our crop ground. We lease out about 400 acres of crop ground. So
Diverse, lots going on there.
Oh yeah, we've been and a little bit more about us. I guess we've been there since '46. I'm a third generation farmer, so And then with Kentucky Pork Producers, this will be my fourth year, but I've been around that my whole life. Dad's been past president a few times, and very excited about what's happening over at Kentucky Pork Producers right now. That's a big one for me. We were getting some younger leadership in there, people that have been in the industry for a long time, kind of going grassroots with it. As far as what I'm the most excited about, that there's a lot of different things going on in Pork Producers, but I'm excited about the scholarship. I'm sure Renee probably had or maybe got the Pork Producer Scholarship. Back then was $500.
Right.
Well, we just upped it to $2,500,
nice.
Which is really big to get people to come, that you're giving them something so they hopefully will pay you back in return later on.
Very cool. Very cool. So how did you get interested? I mean, you're probably a part of the pork producers, like you said, for a while, but what was it as a younger person that you wanted to get involved as an older? I mean, what was so great about it that you wanted to get more involved?
Well, as far as pigs go, just how smart the animal is. They are extremely smart. It's always been in my DNA, wanting to take care of the animals. My background is not in it. I played college baseball at Spalding. Have a degree in accounting and business management. But when the call was made that we thought there was an option of selling the farm or selling some of the farm to pay for lifestyles, there was no hesitation to come back. That was a little over about 15 years ago now. And, we went from 1,200 acres to 1,800 acres. We went from having 1,200 pigs to having 5,000 pigs. So it was pretty big for us. And, not a lot of people get to say that, we have four full-time farmers on the farm.
That's cool.
Yeah, break that down for us, because I think I was telling Matt before you got here, that's one of the neatest stories is how you and your siblings, some of you left and came back, and how that route worked, and then how your parents were able to expand that to everyone is trying to find a piece and work their way in, and the goal is that everyone can be made whole and can be there if they want to be. So I think that's a neat story that not all farms have had an opportunity or have wanted to be able to dig in and make happen. So tell me a little bit about like how that all works out.
I'll say the mastermind behind that was my father. Having the thought process to we moved out. We used to be a fair to finish with our pigs. We moved out of that, and this is when we were all kind of in college, and him deciding like upping the cattle herd so Mark could come back to the farm. Mark's been back on the farm for I think a little over 20 years now, and that's why we went the contract growing route. The contract growing route is a monthly paycheck. We get paid monthly, so it's really nice. That allowed me to come back to the farm, and then when we put up our second hog barn, that kind of gave us some flexibility and was able to get Molly back on the farm. And, that really Dad thinking about that contract growing portion of things, because he loved pigs. I think over the last 60 years, I think we only went 1 year without pigs being on the farm. And that was
incredible.
That was that 98 area where things were just rough for, the pig industry then.
So for I'm not even going to say non-ag, we'll say non-hog, because there are a lot of people in the state that have done cattle for a while, my age, that don't know enough about hogs. Explain farrow to finish in layman's terms, and explain contract growing in kind of layman's terms.
She's taking my question. That was going to be my question.
Sorry, Matt.
I'm
Sorry.
I don't get it person. Come on.
I stole it.
Yeah, you stole my question.
As far as fair to finish, what that means is back then we had both boars and sows, and we were breeding for reproduction purposes. We marketed about 2,000 to 2,500 hogs a year, which in the grand scheme of things, that's small potatoes. As far as contract growing, what it is we technically don't own the hogs. Like, we are renting our space. And the really nice thing about it is, one, you get a monthly paycheck. If you were doing hogs before, it's going to be, 3 months, 3 weeks, 3 days is the gestation cycle. And then now that hog needs 8 months, maybe a year to grow to market weight back then. Now, we'll get the pigs in at about 13-ish pounds. They're going to be somewhere between 17 and 20 days old, and we'll hold on to them. They'll be at our site for about 160 days, and they'll go from 13 pounds to around 275 to 295. It's a pretty quick turnaround.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we end up basically having 2 weeks or to a month left over of the year, but we do 2 cycles, and then, you know, we're kind of rotating by that.
How important is pork in Kentucky? I mean, you see them. We've done plenty of stories on them as the video guys, but how important is pork industry for the state of Kentucky?
I think the pork industry has been on the decline in Kentucky over the last decade, 15 years, I'd say, maybe a little more, maybe 20. But you see a lot of people coming back to it. The reason people got out of it because it's a production. It's not something that is very sustainable on the small scale, but that's why the contract growing route, especially in the southwestern Kentucky area where you've got Tosh Farms down there, and then also down there you got Eric Hurd, who's the president of the Kentucky Pork Producers, and you've got Billy Bush that are integrators, and that's the people that own the hogs. And you're seeing more of a rise down there, but it's kind of like 20 years ago, you saw all these chicken and turkey houses go up. And that was kind of the switch. You saw a lot of guys move from hogs to chickens or turkeys because they were farmers. They wanted production agriculture, livestock, and you know that was their route because the hog market dried up for a little while. But as far as where we're going, I would love to see more producers, contract growers build up. But what is on the up in Kentucky is the show pig. I don't know if you got to see at the state fair, but the show pigs are now probably double what they were 10 years ago. The area that they're allotted at the state fair, which is really exciting because, you know, that's some of my roots came from I showed pigs up until I was about 15 years old. And that was kind of got me started in being around other people in the pork industry.
Yeah, I think the showing part has grown for, we can say, a lot of reasons, whether it's price of some of the other animals you can show or different things. But I think the Kentucky Proud program way back, and a lot of our listeners may not even know this, but Kentucky Proud to them a lot of times means the produce or the cheese or things they buy at the store that was raised on a Kentucky farm. But for the livestock kids, there is a different show premium if your pig was born and raised in Kentucky. And so I know when I had started showing, they had just started the Kentucky Proud program on a premium side, and I had been begging to keep a hog anyway. I'd been riding around with Dad seeing all these hog operations and wanted a sow, not just the show pigs. And so that's what got us in it. And now my brother is selling pork on the side and kind of doing it about to as big of a scale as he can do as an 18-year-old with not a whole big giant set of facilities. But you've seen across the state, and Marion County is a good example, Nelson County, different areas that used to be these hubs of hogs back in the 90s. I mean, my dad knew every back road, and him and Mike Ovison, the old ex-exec of, God rest his soul, of pork producers, they drove every back road in the state. And now some of those barns are coming back with show pigs, and it's whether the show pigs are going to make those kids money for the rest of their lives or not, at least they're learning hogs, which I think is incredible because it's hard to get in a set of barns right now. I mean, there's a biosecurity piece that we understand. Farmers need to keep front end, but how do we get kids to want to be around hogs if they can't get around hogs? So show pigs are giving us that option, and I think it's pretty neat.
Yeah, so speak a little bit more, like, why did you want to go back? I mean, you had a degree. Was it this? You know, what was it? The love of this? So is it the fear of losing the farm or something like that? What was it about it that really made you come back? You know, and speak a little more about that.
Well, for me, it was a little bit of both. You know, I knew I didn't want to see the farm get broken up. That was something that was really big. The legacy of my grandfather. He passed away in 2012, 2013. So, he's the one that started the farm, and I didn't want to see that go, but I've always had an appreciation and love for animals. As far as the pigs and the cattle go, I could give or take some of the others, but that's to each their own. And it's something that, how I say it, I might not own the hogs, but they're mine. I treat every animal like it's my own. So, but yeah, that's mainly, it was a little, I don't want to say fear, but I don't think I could handle losing it.
Right.
It's a part, the farm's a part of me at the moment.
Right. Yeah, we see that with a lot of folks. We have the farm land initiative here. That you're seeing a lot of younger folks like yourself that are just couldn't necessarily see that go, but it's hard. It's hard to keep your hands on it and be a part of that. So yeah, we appreciate you coming back.
Oh yeah. No, you all have the succession program, right, as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's a big one, and I'm going to make a plug for Kentucky Ag Finance here. The young farmer loan is something that, if you're looking into a succession plan, be sure to check out Ag Finance Corporation. It's for a young farmer or beginning farmer loan. 2.75%. It's huge. It's something I have one. My brother has one. I
have one.
I mean,
all the success stories, we can go around the room. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and it's something that has helped a lot of people out, and it's a way that up to 100% loan to value. It's huge.
I will say it is the only reason we were able to buy our neighbor ground beside our house. And everyone says you only get one shot at your neighbor ground, don't let it go. That's really easy to say when you're 65 and you watched it happen and you're like got that hindsight. But when you're 30 and you have not had the savings account you want to have quite yet because you bought a house with 10 acres already and that farm finally comes for sale, but it's quicker than you need it, that loan program is the reason we were able to buy the farm beside our house. And I am a very, very simplified story of some of the huge success stories. So you're on Ag Finance, correct, on the board now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you're on there for pork producers. Where else has pork producers taken you? Are you starting to do some traveling now that you're on the board, or are you sitting on some other committees? What kind of things are you doing with pork producers?
With pork producers, the scholarship committee for pork producers is my big one. But yeah, Commissioner Snell asked me through Nikki Ellis, our executive, to serve on the Ag Finance Board, and that's something that to me is really big, because the amount of farmers we get to help, the amount of young farmers we get to help, and just seeing how agriculture is blossoming in Kentucky. You get to see you're actually part of the process to help people, and I'm really excited about it. This is my third month. I had my third meeting last Friday, so I'm still getting my feet wet a little bit.
How neat is it, as someone who's received the loan, to know that farmers are on that board? I don't think people know that process. My lender did everything for me, which is the intent, is the lender does the hard work for you. But if I had not worked at Ag Development Board, I would have never known that there are farmers on that Ag Finance. I mean, was that kind of a cool moment where you're like, oh, there's farmers making these decisions?
Oh, yeah. No. I'd known a couple were on it, but I didn't know as many were on it. And, each of the seats on the board either does livestock, horticulture, production agriculture. I think equine's on there as well. And then, there's some lenders, former loan officers and current loan officers on the board. And, the big one for me was, Commissioner Snell's right there, heading it with Warren Beeler. So it's been a wild experience up there, but they've really opened their arms and, part of the process, and getting to see the young folks. And sometimes there is succession plans in this. So you see the kids with their parents up there, at the board meetings, because our board meetings are open. Or you see some loan officers. I saw my local loan officer last time. that helped with my loan. So it's a surreal experience coming from, I'm just a farmer to being on the board with Kentucky pork producers to going to ag finance, which is, to me, one of the more prominent or respectable boards that you can be on. So
it's very cool. Yeah. So talk about economics wise, first for a non-pork person, what is the impact? What is the impact of pork in the state of Kentucky? He's going to look it up.
I'm going to see if I have my numbers here. I ain't going to lie to you.
We like a well-prepped guest. Well, I'm going to, while you're looking at that, there is no statement I hate more, Matt, than I am just a farmer.
Uh-huh.
But a farmer told me a while back, he said, if it bothers you so much, then you do your part to make more of us feel like we're not just. And I said,
Right.
That is a good challenge back, because how often do we hear that? Oh, it wasn't until somebody asked me to be on the Farm Bureau board, or what until somebody asked me to be on pork producers, that I was like, I was always just been a farmer. And I was like, no farmer is just a farmer.
Right.
And he kind of pushed it back. Well, if that bugs you, then start inviting more. And I said, well, that's fair. So it was pretty funny.
No, we appreciate you all having us, because I think hearing from the farmers, getting to hear their story has been interesting.
Yeah.
So, and I'll get back to you on that.
Okay, that's fine.
Well, okay, easier one. Give us some of the. We've been talking a lot of the pros. So really good things happening at y'all's farm. You've expanded, changed, things have worked, brought some siblings back. But not everything is easy. What are challenges in the pork industry? What's some things you even look at every day? Maybe it doesn't have to be the large scale ones, whichever one you feel most comfortable. But what are some challenges when it comes to being a pork producer?
I'll throw a few at you. So I'll go with the big one first. ASF. That is something like we have a team at Pork Producers, Kylie Trail and Team Pork, that is doing site premise IDs. So for the U.S. SHIP program. So if we do get ASF, which is African swine flu, if we do get that, then we know the movements of the pigs and when we need to stop movements of pigs, because basically the spread of that is rampant. Mm-hmm. If it gets here, it will probably wipe out a quarter to half of the pork population.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, it's scary. It's been in China for a while, and there's some spreading. There's a lot going on about that, and luckily, Kylie Bush now. I said Trail. I'm sorry, Kylie.
It's been very recent. I think she'll forgive you.
She's the one to get in contact with for the premise ID for the U.S. SHIP, and it's something for the show pig people. Mm-hmm. They're really opening up to the show pig people, because if something happens at a fair, then they need to notify all the people at that fair. So knowing where the pigs are is the biggest key.
Mm-hmm.
As far as other, you're going to hear every farmer is going to have a different experience with this. H-2A is going to be another big one. Work visas, finding labor for your farm. Luckily, we sometimes get a little stretched thin, but we're pretty good on that area. But I know that's a big one in any farming operation, mm-hmm. is finding people that want to come out and work, do the manual labor, do a little bit of a dirty job. What I can say about that is anyone that hasn't done it, I don't think they understand how rewarding it is to do it.
Mm.
That's fair.
You get to see these animals, or you get to see a seed turn into a crop. It's not something that happens overnight. You don't get to see immediate impact, but we get to feed the world. That's the easiest way to say it. And that's something like, you might not think is a big deal because you're only doing this little portion, but it takes all these little people to make up feeding the world. I could probably go in on another topic in the pork industry. And some of that would be, we've tried in the past to get pork on the farm bill. Pork's not in the farm bill. Maybe there was a price set during COVID, but it still hasn't made it to the farm bill. There's lobbying for it. So, but that's just a risk reduction. I mean, the farm bill's a risk reduction. So.
Yeah, we see that on the cattle side, and I don't know if you guys have ever done LRP, livestock risk protection, but I think it's funny talking to crop guys that are like, "You guys, why is this a big deal?" And I said, "We have never had crop insurance for livestock, not something that a cow-calf man could use on his calves." And they said, "No, you've had something." And we go back and forth. I'm like, "No." And livestock risk protection, even on high cattle prices, has paid off. This August market, I don't know if you guys saw it. I'm sorry if you did. My dad had to live through the August market where we had a little dip. And even though made more money than you would have the year before, things are great in the cattle market. If you'd have locked that in, you would have been in even better shape because it did take a dip. So I, and Eric Hurd, you mentioned him already. He and Mr. Maurice, his dad, both sit on some of our boards. And Eric is a big proponent of, we have got to figure out a way to risk protection for all production livestock and poultry, whatever it is, because sometimes hogs does, because of so much contract growing, you guys get lumped with poultry sometimes. Well, you don't own the animals, so what's the big deal? No, there is a big deal. And so we have to kind of figure out how to lay this out and make sure our guys are protected, and don't lump everybody in one category. So that is a big issue. And a lot of people were in D.C. That was just last week, I think. There was a big crew from y'all's delegation up there fighting the good fight.
Oh, yeah, and Eric was out speaking, and it's a constant. Luckily, the staff we have at Pork Producers, they are phenomenal. I cannot say any better words about, Nikki Ellis and Emma Hope and Kylie Bush. No, those three ladies are putting in a lot of hours, fighting for and lobbying for, the farmers here in Kentucky.
So October is pork month. Mm-hmm. Hence, again, we're planning. Hence why we got you here. What if I'm just a regular old person in Louisville or Lexington? How can I celebrate pork month? What's something I can do? I'm a little far from a hog farm. What can I do to help celebrate pork month?
Well, the one I'm going to say is anytime you're at the state fair or the exposition center, you're going to find the Kentucky Pork Producers tent or booths. We got two exciting new products on that this year. The breaded pork tenderloin. I don't know if you've had that.
Delicious.
It is wonderful.
Breaded pork tenderloin.
Yeah, it's kind of like the easiest way. It's a schnitzel. Some people will get that one. It's a schnitzel. It's great.
Yeah.
It's in conjunction with the Soybean Council. We're using their Hyolac oil to fry it in.
Okay. All right.
It's good.
I need to do this. Yes.
And then the new product that got introduced at this year's state fair was the chocolate covered bacon.
Holy moly.
Yeah.
All right.
Here's the problem. Chocolate covered bacon got released. So we do this thing. Here's your little fun part. Wednesday beforehand breakfast. The whole crew's there. We're setting up. Everybody's doing the run-throughs. And Matt Hilton walks the entire group and says, "Who's going to get a donut burger?"
We get a donut burger.
Every year. And half of us are like, "Never again. We've done it once. We're not doing it again." If chocolate covered bacon had been released that day, it didn't get released till that Friday. So next year.
Okay.
We're in.
Maybe we're chocolate covered bacon from now on. We've done the donut burger every year for a while now. It's still it's actually surprisingly good. Have you ever had the donut burger?
I've had it once. I had to try it.
That's as far as I got as well.
Yeah. I'll take the pork burger any day.
There you go.
Pork burger's pretty good.
My favorite thing to tell people when they say, well, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I'm not going to go to the pork declaration of it's a month. They're like, what do I do? And I go, buy pork.
Buy pork, yeah.
And don't dry it out. That is my big, that's how I knew my husband was a keeper. The first time that pork chop came off the grill and I cut it and it was I was like, oh, you can stay. There we are. No dried out pork chop. But seriously, that's how you can support any month. I tell people that all the time. If even if you don't know for sure that pork came from Kentucky, the fact that you're promoting that industry, supporting that industry in general, sure, if you got a local kid that's selling pork or a local farm that does it, that's even better. But if you just go to Kroger and buy chops or buy a little ground pork instead of ground beef every once in a while, toss a bone to everybody, you know?
Yeah, I don't see any problem with eating pork all year round and supporting our pork farmers. So we do it quite a bit. So yeah, good old pork chop cooked correctly.
Yes.
On the grill or something like that. That's where it's at. So
there's been a big push on that. The cooking your pork chop correctly, 140 to 145,
and it's okay.
Not 180, guys.
Right. It's perfect. It's perfect, just like that.
And it might have been your dad that told me one time, if you're cooking for a crowd, it's not going to hurt you to pull it off just a smidge before that. If you're putting it in a cooler towered with some more, got to think through this.
It's going to warm it up.
Yeah,
it's going to
heat it up. Right, so, yeah, good stuff.
Well, tell us, how can folks learn more about the pork producers, learn more about what you guys are up to, and get involved or however they want to do it? Where can people learn about you?
kypork.org is going to be our official website. Kentucky Pork Producers Association, I believe, on Instagram. Emma Hope's running that. I think last week or this weekend they were at the Lexington Legends game. I believe that was the commodities group. Crispy Bacon was up there in costume. So that's the biggest where you can learn about us. We have a membership. We'll have our annual meeting in January, and everyone's welcome to come as long as they're a member.
Very cool. Very cool.
And you can fix that membership pretty quick when you get there.
Oh, yes, you can.
Well, Michael, I can't thank you enough. It has been a blast having you here. Did you find out an answer?
Oh, yes. So here comes your economic impact.
I'm ready.
$2.8 billion.
With a B.
With a B. So 8,000 jobs, $460 million in annual earning, and 820 million pounds of pork were processed in Kentucky facilities last year.
Wow.
Ooh.
So
he came with the stats here at the end.
Man.
Answered that question
to
right
round us out.
That's some impact.
She's good.
October, pork month, right?
All right. Well, on that awesome note, what more reason do you need to buy pork? I'm telling you. All right. Well, Michael, thank you so much. I know I kind of yanked you in here. I grabbed you at State Fair and told you I was going to do it. So.
Oh, that's no problem. I'm gonna give one more plug for Kentucky Pork Producers.
Yeah.
Hopefully, within the next year, we're gonna bring back and have our old sauce for sale.
Ooh.
So it's something for the old group of people that remember the sauce from Kentucky Pork Producers, but it's something we're excited about. Being able to offer maybe a full Kentucky Proud product. That's what I think we're going for right now. So that's my shameless plug.
Sauce is coming.
I love it.
Awesome. Love it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. And thank you, listeners. Be sure to subscribe to the larger podcast, Kentucky Farm Life. And we'll see you next time on Between the Rows.